Yeah, we're good.
Okay. I see it now.
Well, the show should be about ready to wrap up there. We're going to be the first time I think we've done Facebook Live from inside the bass boat. We've actually been down at Dale Hollow fishing today, and now it's time to do a little Facebook Live. It's actually cutting into my fishing time a little bit, but that's all right. See if I can make this thing show up here. I don't know how to do the live feed. Yeah, here we go. All right.
Right, because that's what
There you go. You're back on there, John.
I don't know how to get.
All right.
There's Jimmy.
That'll be Jimmy. You better pop him up on the screen here in a minute.
That's why I don't know how to get him on there.
All right. I think you can touch him on that. We had to get hi Terry McWilliams. We see you on there. Brett Dormeyer. Now that's a dangerous name right there. Melissa Jennings and Scott Heath. We see you there. I'm actually sitting in the bass boat. We've been fishing on Dale Hollow Lake today. Crappie fishing is what we were going for. We ended up catching a few crappie, but there was more bass up and on the beds, so we decided we'd start catching some largemouth while we were out there, and of course it's been a fun day. I don't know where we're going to head next. I think we're heading over to Cedar Lake tomorrow to fish, and that ought to be a good time because these fish are starting to go to the beds right now, and there ain't nothing more fun than catching them off the beds. We got to a couple of pockets today, and just kind of big mud flats, and bass were just all up the edges of these big flats, and you just see them everywhere down here in this clear Dale Hollow water, and it was awesome. It's of course after the bite, the show's over. It was a Florida episode. Of course, this was a great episode. Did a lot of fish catching down at Lake Garcia in Florida. I had Jimmy Jennings with me, which is always a disaster, and it's always a good time with him. He gives me a hard time, but it makes it all worthwhile. Clayton Stone, our editor, he was actually on the episode this week. Clayton's face usually not seen anywhere, but he was up in the front stage with us on the episode. He actually knew Lake Garcia, took me out that morning for about 2 or 3 hours. Jimmy actually flew in and was waiting on us at the ramp, as you folks got to see in the episode, and Jimmy wasn't very happy about that. Matter of fact, Jimmy's putting comments on here. It says it's a disaster because I outfish you. Now, Jimmy, in that episode, I believe, you did outfish me. So I'm not going to make any comments, but John, see if you can get Jimmy on here live. Christopher coached. John Boykin's behind the cell phone over here. John and me are out fishing, and
who is it we're trying to get?
You need to get Brian Merritt, which is Jimmy Jennings. Jimmy's on Brian's phone. Cliff Whittington says, Jimmy caught some nice fish. Now, you know, I edited it that way to make it look like he caught them fish, but I'm always giving Jimmy havoc. You know, Jimmy's a great fisherman. He's a great friend. He did probably the funniest moment in that show was Jimmy had actually, his back was bothering him. He had sat down, and he stands up, grabs his swim jig, throws it out, and what's he do? Catches 5.5, 6 pounder, and I'm just shaking my head. I'm just casting and chucking and whining and casting and chucking and whining, and boom, he makes it happen. All right, can you get him on there?
He's not on this list. I mean, I see. I mean,
Okay, scroll back down. Hang on, I'm gonna.
So there's all the.
Let's go back over this way. Right there.
There it is.
All right, Jimmy should be joining us live here. Did he pop up on the screen?
It says adding.
All right.
How's it going?
See you on there. Ben Tooley, how are you? Oh no, I'm hearing the voice of a guy I don't want to have to listen to. Hey, make sure you square that camera up. You're looking a little crooked like me. Jimmy is as technologically advanced as I am, by the way. So this.
I am not technologically advanced, and I'm at an 811 conference here in Cherokee, North Carolina. I'm still trying to get the work done while you're out there practicing, okay?
Hey, some of.
We might be struggling a little bit on this end, so.
Well, you know, Jimmy, we gotta talk just a little bit about Florida for a minute. You know, how is it you sit down in the floor of the boat and rest up and you jump up and you make 2 or 3 casts and you put a fish in the boat? Is this skill, luck? I mean, tell me how this happens.
You can't fish all the time, Mark. You only fish where the big fish are. So when you're passing by where there are no fish, you sit down and you rest. You got to learn that. You can't fish all the time. I only fish where the big fish are.
Well, you actually proved that in this episode, but on the for real note of it, it was a pretty awesome trip. The wind made it a little entertaining that day, but we went on to catch them pretty good, and I think it was for me. I had a great time with you, and I was glad to see you put that big one in the boat. I was rushing for the net like it was tournament day.
The fishing was a little tough that day. I think we seen more wind and more alligators than we saw fish, but we managed to put a few nice big fish in the boat. And you wouldn't let me hook that alligator and reel him in, and I think I'm pretty happy that I didn't hook him, because I don't know what I would have done if I had, but we managed to put a few nice fish in the boat that week, so that was a lot of fun. Always fun.
You got to leave the alligators alone. But, you know, the bait that we were using, it was actually a Z-Man swim jig, and we were throwing these little Kitech 3.8-inch trailers on the back of them. And if you haven't thrown this bait, Jimmy, just tell them. You can make one cast, and what happens?
You catch a 6-pound fish. You cast it out, you reel the fish back. I thought that's how fishing worked. I'm not sure. Am I doing it wrong?
Well, you know, Jimmy, me and you've got the opportunity to fish, you know, together many, many days over the last few years. And, you know, tell me, you know, a little bit about One Call Concepts and why and what you do and you know, your reasoning to be involved in the fishing and in the outdoors.
Well, yeah, as most people know, I work for One Call Concepts. We're a call center provider, one of the largest call center providers here in the U.S. We have centers that we partner with our customers all over the U.S. and in the damage prevention industry. Also travel around with the 811 bike, the 811 car. We just created a new vehicle of damage prevention, which was unveiled last week at our corporate office in Maryland. So we really try to spread that 811 message out as much as possible. So partnering with the direction and you, Mark, has been a great benefit to us and the industry. You know, who do we want to get that message out to? Who are the guys we want to keep safe and send home every day? It's the guys like us, the construction guys, the fishermen, the hunters, and the guys like that. And that's what we're always looking for, is to get that message to them. So, you know, if we can have a little fun spreading the message, which clearly we always have a little fun, even though there's a little teasing and going on in the back, especially when I catch the biggest fish and, you know, you have problems editing that big 6-pounder out. But, you know, it's always a lot of fun to be able to get the message out in the ways that we do. And I always look forward to our fishing trips and you know, talking about 811 damage prevention and teasing each other just a little bit about the fishing.
Well, if we're not having a little bit of fun while we're at it, then we don't need to be out there, because that's what fishing's all about. It's about catching fish, having a good friendship, and, you know, you use the word damage prevention, you know, and that's just telling people when Jimmy says that, you know, of being aware, knowing how to be safe before you dig by calling 811, learning what, you know, knowing what facilities and infrastructures in that ground is important. So when he used that word, I just wanted to come back and kind of explain that word, because Jimmy and I, we use that word a lot around the 811 message and around one call concepts. Well, to talk a little bit, we got Tim Losman on here. We got Paul DeRossa. We got Robert Bishop. Hey, all you guys, share this live video out to your friends and see if we can roll some more people on here. We want a lineup of folks on here tonight. We're going to have a little challenge question here in the next 4 or 5 minutes, as I always do, so that we're going to be giving away some of these nice looking direction hats, and we're going to be asking a question here in just a minute or so. I'm also going to bring up that we just got done with our giveaways, and we had a couple of giveaways. One of them was One Call Concepts that actually gave us a speaker and a few direction hats. We gave them away, and a guy won those was Bassman0773, and we'll be sending him a message on that. And then I believe the Facebook one was, the winner was Loretta Hall. And once again, you know, we had some direction hats and some One Call Concept items that we gave away in those giveaways on Instagram and Facebook. We'll be starting new giveaways here probably midweek again. Start following those and sharing them and doing all the things that you can to help get the direction out there, get more people watching, and you can win those prizes by doing that. So we just want to say congrats to those two folks for winning those. And then somebody's going to be winning a couple direction hats. Well, once again, we need everybody to start sharing this video real quick. Paul, Tim, Robert, Justin Jennings, you're on there, Cliff Whittington. Wait a minute, Cliff put a note on here. This guy catches small fish and acts like it's Moby Dick. He doesn't have a sweet rack.
Now, hold up a minute there, Mark. That guy, Cliff Whittington, that put that up there, if you look over my shoulder here, right, where's he at? He's right over there. Him and I are partners in the trivia contest going on right now. Cliff is one of my co-workers with One Call Concepts Locating Services. He's sitting right there. And he's over there making a few comments, so we'll let him slide on that.
I might agree with Cliff. You do act like that was Moby Dick. I mean, you know, that little bitty old fish you caught, you thought it was the end of the show or something.
So now I got them waving from over there. Let's see if they'll do it again, see if we can get them.
Well, you got him waving again.
There you go. That's what I have to do. I see old Rob Olson from out there in Minnesota's on. Hello, Rob.
Rob Olson's on there. Tim Losman said he shared it out. Melissa Jennings says, I bet you caught the big fish because Mark brought you lunch that day. And you're right.
And that's my wife, and she knows you did not buy lunch, bring lunch, or have lunch anywhere near that boat.
I would beg to argue that this boat always has food and supplies in it, drinks. You know, anybody that claims to get in my boat that there's not food, I mean, I don't know, Jimmy, why you have a hard time finding all this food. The boat is.
Yeah, there's never any of that in the boat when I get there.
Plenty of it right here. I mean, plenty. You know, Jimmy likes to comment that I never have any food in this boat for him. But everybody just.
Of course, there's never any food when I get on the boat. I've never seen food on that boat, only in videos.
Oh, there's a great story to that.
A couple times I've close to starving to death on that boat.
I'm going to let you tell the story of crappie fishing and the only reason you ended up with food.
What story is that?
Our Taylorsville Lake a few years ago with Nicholas.
Oh, the only reason we got out there and we were fishing and we were just about to starve to death. And I said, hey, Mark, where's the food? And he said, we don't have any. We didn't bring any food. Luckily, we had Nick Stowe, Mark's son, on the boat. So we had to quit fishing, send back for food, and actually take a lunch break because Mark's wife, Jill, would have killed him. She didn't feed the boy. The boy had to have food, and luckily, I was able to get some food out of that. That's the only time I've seen Mark have food on that boat.
You know, we couldn't starve my son like that. I mean, I wouldn't do such a thing. Well, you know, talking.
Well, I noticed Robert Bishop noticed that he didn't see any food on that boat either. So I see it.
And then Paul's even commented. He knows that I keep Vienna sausages around. Look at that. I mean, I always got it. We'll talk about the lake where we were at in Florida. We were actually on Lake Garcia, and this is outside of Melbourne, Florida. It was ice cold back home, ice cold at your place. We were in Florida. I guess it was when was that? Was that January, February? I think when I can't remember neither. I believe it was in January. And but it was great weather down there, other than a little bit windy. The baits that we ended up using, like I said, was a swim jig, and this was a Z-Man swim jig. It had a 3.8-inch Kitech trailer on it. The other bait that I caught a number of fish on that I've thrown for years is just a Terminator spinnerbait 3/8 ounce, and I put a 7.5-inch white culprit worm on the back of it. I've thrown it that away for years. It's just a bait that catches a lot of fish for me, and I throw it quite a bit all the time. But speaking of baits, today I was out and I decided that I've been throwing these little storm swim bait things here. I just bought these at Walmart and started throwing them in the pond, catching a lot of crappie on them and a lot of big crappie. So I decided to throw this thing down here at Dale Hollow and started catching fish on it today. So my question to win our hats this week is, what four different types of fish did I catch on that bait today? Because John back here, he's behind the camera. John, spin the camera around and say hi to everybody.
Hello.
And John said, the question would be is, what 4 different types of fish did I catch with this bait today? Of course, we know I caught a crappie with it, so you got 3 other ones to guess to figure out. And all you got to do is start commenting, and the first one to get it right is going to get a couple direction hats shipped to them. So what 4 different varieties of fish did I catch using this little swim bait today? 1 is a crappie, and there's 3 others. Now, there ain't nobody commenting yet, so this must be difficult.
Well, Robert wants to know what my bait of choice is. Right. I choose what Mark's not using, because usually Mark's not catching fish. So if he's using it, I go to something else, and then I catch the fish.
Hey, Kareem wants to know when we're going ice fishing. Now, I don't know about our cold days, because Lake Egypt was a little rough on us. Oh.
We'll go ice fishing in Minnesota in August. Last time I went fishing in the cold, I almost froze to death in Illinois catching crappie. So we're gonna wait till August. We'll go to Minnesota. If they have ice fishing, then we'll do it.
All right. So we've got crappie, bass, bluegill. Well, we're getting to 3 of them, but there's another fish that's gonna need to go into that mix. You got to name the 4th fish. So it looks like somebody's narrowed it down to crappie, bass, a bluegill. It was actually a red ear. And there's a 4th variety of fish that I caught today throwing this little storm shad swim bait. Can anybody guess what the other fish is? We got the crappie.
Moby Dick.
No, he ate people, didn't he? Crappie, bass.
See, I'm being attacked.
What other type of fish did I catch? Y'all are slow to comment over there. Hey, somebody's giving you hugs back there.
Hey, I'm at the North Carolina-South Carolina Joint Damage Prevention Conference here in Cherokee, North Carolina. I'm out here still promoting that 811 message, getting that message out. You're still out there fishing, so some of us have to go to work every once in a while.
No, I'm sitting in the parking lot pretending like I'm fishing, see?
You have it better than me, buddy, because I had to find a quiet place, and this is where I'm at. Do you see that sign right there? I am in the hallway of the exhibit hall near the restroom. Was the only quiet place I could find. So that's where I'm at tonight.
Oh, well, I'm in my Ranger Boat office. They built me one of the finest offices that any guy could ever have right here. I mean, when you're sitting in this office right here, you're just cozy, comfy, and you can pick up a rod and reel anytime you tackle and go right at it. All right, we got another fish to guess here. Nobody's guessed this other fish. And y'all aren't doing a very good job of guessing here. We need to get some guessing going on. No walleye down here today, but that's a good guess, Robert Bishop. So, I mean, Rob Olson should be able to guess something like this. We know what kind of fisherman Rob is. I'm going to get in trouble. Last week, I think Rob said I carried 37 rods in my boat. I said, holy moly, I'd have to, it might be a little tough.
Rob can't win. He's the king videographer of 811.
That he is.
No hat for him.
He's actually been helping with a lot of graphic stuff with us and does a great job as well with the direction.
Absolutely.
Actually, Rob is the guy who put the logo together for us, as a matter of fact. And what a great job he did with that. All right, somebody keep a guessing here. Carp, perch, catfish, walleye. Come on, y'all. You're getting there. This is a fish that has a small mouth. He grabs the bait and he pulls hard. They thump a bait when they hit it. We need somebody to guess this other.
Was it a goldfish?
So,
You sure it wasn't a goldfish?
So, Jimmy, you're in, did you say North Carolina, South Carolina? Is that where you're at?
Ma'am, I'm in Cherokee, North Carolina now. It's a North Carolina, South Carolina joint conference starting out tonight. We just got in here tonight. We're going to set up tomorrow and do a lot of promoting. And these guys really know how to do it up big down here. So just getting that 811 call before you dig message out. And we're at the Harris Casino in Cherokee, North Carolina tonight.
That sounds like a fun place to keep your money in your wallet now. Now, here we go. Robert Bishop, you finally nailed it down with the drum. I caught 4 different fish, and I believe it was in about 4 or 5 casts, wasn't it, John?
Yep.
It was one after another. I threw out, caught a nice crappie, threw out, caught a bass, threw out, caught – well, actually, I started with the drum, I believe, didn't I?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I caught the drum first, then the crappie, then a bass, and then I ended up catching a big red ear. A lot of fun throwing just this little bitty old storm swim bait. Once again, I just pick them up at Walmart, and fun little bait for a kid to throw. You catch a lot of fish, and it's a great crappie bait. Jimmy, any other comments about our Florida trip and the fishing down there in the grass? Of course, there's tons of grass, lily pads, weeds. If you've never been to Florida fishing, it's kind of intimidating, I would say, in a way, Jimmy, because when you look out there, these lakes are just kind of like big old, they're just miles wide, and there's just like little levees down them, and they're old. This was actually, I think, an old, what was it, kind of farm? Do you know, John?
It's a horse farm.
It was an old horse farm. But anyway, some of them had orchards or old potato farms, and they got levees in them and that, and these levees run kind of long ways down them. You've got these high spots, and you just kind of go out there and fish them, but you're out there, and it's just grass everywhere. So it's kind of intimidating, but what did you think of the Florida fishing?
Oh, it was a lot of fun down there in Florida, Mark. Of course, the wind set us back. You know how hard that wind was blowing across those lakes, but it's the levees and the different depths of the water. I was surprised there were that kind of fish in there, that we could catch some big fish, but didn't see any alligators. And, you know, if alligators aren't going to live anywhere where there's not a food supply. So, you know, those alligators are feeding on those big bass and things like that. They're not surviving in there with nothing. So, you know, there's big fish in there. And it was a lot of fun. And you know, you left off the part, and folks didn't get to see that in the show. You know, it's about the camaraderie. You know, we ran upon a boat that was broke down. And, you know, we helped tow those boys back in the shore that night and got them off the water and got them back home safe. And it's exactly like the message we're promoting is a call before you dig message. We don't want folks getting hurt out here digging every day. And we certainly aren't going to leave somebody sitting out in the middle of a lake. You know, we could have been catching fish and doing different things when those fellas broke down. We went by them, but, you know, that's not how you do things. You stop and you help. We got them back to the dock, and then we went back and did a little more fishing. So it was all fun, and that's what it's all about.
Boys were they from Canada?
They were from Canada. They had came down from Canada and bought a bass boat on their way down to Florida to fish, and the boat broke down. So some good old boys from Canada, they probably won't buy any more boats on their travels. So
that was kind of a bum deal for them. And, of course, pulling them in that shallow water, we were kind of overheating the motor a few times. But you know what? We got them in, and that's what it is all about. And that's the side that we try to show on TV is the camaraderie, how much fun. I mean, Jimmy, the number of days we've spent on the water together in Louisiana, Chesapeake Bay. I mean, we've had some great laughs, great times. And, of course, there's stories that we make fun of each other and laugh about just over and over and over. It's almost like a broken record because you just keep telling them because of the amount of fun that you have out there in the boat.
We have a lot of fun. And you were hard saying that, Louisiana, Chesapeake Bay. Let me finish up for you. Texas, Mexico, Illinois, Kentucky. I can remember them all, Mark. I'm sorry you can't.
It makes me feel good that you remember all of them. This guy.
Hey, catching fish or not, man, it's a lot of fun.
We have a lot of fun giving each other a hard time. Of course, our buddy Mike Helton with Denali Rods. Mike and you and me, we probably have a few texts quite often, and you all like setting me up and getting my blood pressure and stirring me up all the time. And but that's it. But
as you know, Mark, Mike Hilton from Denali Rods is one of my best friends, and we have more fun teasing you on text messages than we do anything else. So I know Mike's out there listening right now, and we love his rods and we love using his rods. But it's a whole lot more fun teasing you when we're not fishing.
Well, I'm glad y'all like doing that because y'all keep my blood pressure up. So let's see. Let's run down the list here on the notes and make sure we caught most everything. This episode this week was actually brought to you by Ohio Utility Protection Service. Their team of folks, promote the 811 message. They're one call center in Ohio. Roger Lipscomb, Lee Richards, team of folks up there. Chuck Green. I can go down a whole list of them up there. Great folks. They're another partner in the 811 damage prevention message, and we just want to thank them for keeping people safe, getting that message out to individuals, and it's always like to mention the folks that make that are getting that message out there. Jimmy, another funny part of the show, and I'm going to throw Clayton under the bus a minute because Clayton's our editor, and he's always behind the scenes. So Clayton calls me and says, hey, in the morning before Jimmy gets in, why don't I take you out on the lake and I'll show you around? So show you around on the lake means, okay, I know where I'm going. We'll drive out here. We'll go find these fish. Well, here's how this plays out. We take off. We go down through here. I say, Clayton, is this where we're going? Yeah. We go down through here. We go turn across the lake. He says, you got to shut down for a second right here. So we shut down. Somehow, we're in 1.5 feet, 2 foot of mud. I wouldn't even call it water because we're in the mud. So, Clayton, I want to understand what it was that you were trying to show me around, how to get into the mud or around the mud, because somehow we went in the mud. But I got to throw him under the bus on that because it was a great laugh for me. Clayton, of course, is a spirited guy with a lot of he's a bundle of laughs, and what a great job he does editing this show, putting it together. His company, Stonewall Media. Folks, if you ever need something put together, he's a great guy for it. He's just taking this show and just keeps making it better and better. And it's his concepts and ideas, along with Christopher and John Boykin and myself and all of us that keep progressing. But I just want to give Clayton a little hats off, and a hats off for driving me into the mud. I could have done that on my own with no problem. But, Paul.
I'm a little concerned about Clayton, Mark. I'm going to be honest with you. And a little bit about you, because I've never seen two guys eat 150 raw oysters in one night and continue to walk and talk about it. And actually seemed like you enjoyed it as you were eating them raw things. So, Clayton, that bothers me a little bit. I've never seen anybody do that.
Well,
so
he did cook up a good meal for us. We had oysters down there. Of course, I'm a raw oyster eating guy. and Clayton's family, they are like ate up with oysters and seafood. And I'm going to tell you what, that meal he put together for us was some fine dining.
Once he started cooking the oysters, then they got to be fine dining. Right, right there in the beginning when he was throwing them right there raw, that you seem to enjoy it, but I have to pass on that stuff. I waited till mine were cooked, and then they got to be very good.
And all I can say is you had to wait longer to eat than I did because my food come out first. Oh.
Clayton really took care of it while we were down there, so I really appreciate that.
Well, I still say the favorite part of my episode was you standing on the boat ramp waiting for me to come get you to go fishing, and I would say I'm sorry, but you know what? I was glad to be out there catching them fish while you were sitting there.
Yeah. And I'm just glad to travel all the way to Florida and stand there on the dock and wait for you. I had nothing else to do that day but stand there and wait.
Well,
it's all good. It's all good. We had a lot of fun doing that, and waiting on you guys to get back in. And I don't mind you scouting out the lake and finding all the hot spots, and then taking me out there and putting me on them so I can catch the fish. So, but I'm not going to tell anybody that. We'll keep that between you and I.
Well, to talk a little bit about next week, we're going to be in Alabama on the episode, and this was a great trip. I'm down there with a great friend of mine, Michael Hatton. Michael, if for folks that know him, understand him, this guy is just really just a role model of an individual. He's a guy I always enjoy being in the boat with. You're going to need to check out next week's episode. We're going down there to catch some Coosa River spotted bass, but you're going to have to check out the episode to actually see what ends up happening. It was pretty, I can't say I could have scripted what went on down in Alabama, but Michael Hatton made it a great episode. It's going to be a good episode. Check that out on Pursuit Channel, 7 o'clock next Tuesday night. And then Facebook Live, what we call After the Bite, we'll be back here at 7:30 next week again, talking about the Alabama episode. Hopefully we'll have Michael Hatton join us. I haven't talked to him yet, but Michael, I'm telling you now, plan on joining us next week. Jimmy, I want to thank you for taking your time and joining us. We appreciate what you're doing out there in South Carolina and North Carolina. And you know what? I'm going to let you wrap this show up, and when you're done, that's all of After the Bite.
Thank you, everybody, for being there. Stay tuned next week. The Direction on the Pursuit Channel, fishing in Alabama. Winners get a hat. See you guys.